Welcome to the Explainer. Now, we all know the big battles of World War II, right? But today, we're going to look at it from a totally different angle. This isn't just about battles. It's a story of catastrophic pride and the absolutely disastrous mistakes that pride led to.
Okay, so let's just start with this quote. Like most of us, I believed in happy endings. You know, that just hits you, right? It's from a young Polish pilot, and it perfectly captures this initial hope that just evaporates into horror. So this isn't going to be a dry list of dates. No, this is a story about how thinking you're headed for a quick, easy win can lead to one of the biggest disasters in all of human history.
So, where does our story start? 1939. Germany unleashes something new. A type of warfare that just completely stuns the world and builds this myth, this idea that they are absolutely invincible.
And that new warfare was called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. But here's the thing you have to understand. It wasn't just a military tactic. No, it was a psychological weapon. I mean, think about World War I with its static trenches. This was the exact opposite. It was pure speed and chaos. A bloodbath, as one veteran called it. You've got panzers and air support, and they're deliberately creating terror to break the enemy's will.
And wow, did it work. The results were just staggering. In less than a single year, the Nazi war machine just rolls over country after country. I mean, Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, France, gone. And with each victory, this idea, this hubris, just grows stronger. They started to believe they were truly destined to rule all of Europe.
And you know, that feeling was contagious. It wasn't just the Germans who thought so. All around the world, people were looking at this and thinking, there's no way to stop them. Even the U.S. ambassador in London, Joseph Kennedy, basically said, where can the Allies even fight these guys and win? It really felt like an Axis victory wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. So, continental Europe has fallen. The Nazi flag flies from Paris to Warsaw. And there's just one island nation left standing in the way. Great Britain. And let's be honest, Britain was on its knees. After Dunkirk, they'd left almost all of their heavy equipment behind on the beaches. Things looked bleak.
And this right here, this is where we see the first major miscalculation from the Axis. The German High Command was just blinded by their own success. It's what historians call institutionalized hubris. They looked at Britain and saw a beaten enemy ready to fold. What they didn't see, what they completely underestimated, was British science, British industry, and maybe most important of all, British will.
I mean, listen to this quote from a top German fighter ace. He called the British planes tired old puffers and said he was having the time of my life. It just says it all, doesn't it? Total contempt. But here's the tragic irony. The very day he wrote that letter bragging about how easy it was, one of those tired old puffers shut him down. Ouch! And that German hubris slammed right into a brick wall of defiance, and that brick wall was named Winston Churchill. His speeches galvanized an entire nation. You know, he admitted privately that after Dunkirk, all they really had to fight with were the butt ends of broken beer bottles. But that spirit, that refusal to give in, that was the one weapon the Germans just couldn't understand or plan for.
Okay, so Britain won't break, so what does Hitler do? He doubles down. His hubris leads him to his second and honestly, his most fatal miscalculation. He makes a massive gamble. Conquer the Soviet Union, this huge, vast country, before America could get its act together and enter the war.
And when I say a massive gamble, I mean it. Just look at this number, 3.6 million. That's how many Axis troops stormed across the Soviet border in June 1941. It is, to this day, the largest land invasion in all of human history. The sheer scale is just mind-boggling.
And at first, it looked like the gamble was paying off. The initial invasion only fed into their racist arrogance. The German High Command literally thought the war would be over in 2 weeks, just 14 days. They were so convinced that the Slavic people, who they saw as subhuman, would just collapse.
But they didn't collapse. Far from it. That unstoppable Blitzkrieg machine, it ground to a halt in the rubble and ruin of a single city, Stalingrad. Stalingrad became the meat grinder of the Eastern Front. We're talking brutal, street by street, room by room fighting. A German pilot described it as a literal hell on earth, a place where it was incomprehensible people can continue to live.
And the cost, just immense. Over 1 million casualties. The battle didn't just bleed the German 6th Army dry, it completely shattered that myth of German invincibility. For good. This was it. The tide had officially turned on the Eastern Front.
So while Germany is bleeding out in the snows of Russia, their ally in the Pacific, Japan, is about to make the third monumental miscalculation. And this is the one that's going to turn a European war into a truly global catastrophe for the Axis powers.
December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Now make no mistake, as a military operation, it was a tactical success. But as a long-term strategy, it was a colossal blunder. See, the idea was to knock out the U.S. Pacific Fleet in one swift blow. They thought this would force America to the negotiating table and just let Japan have its way in Asia. Well, they got the exact opposite. Just look at this shift in public opinion. Before Pearl Harbor, 90% of Americans wanted nothing to do with the war. They were staunchly isolationist. After the attack, 97% were for the war. Japan didn't intimidate a rival, they woke up a sleeping giant.
And what that giant brought to the fight was the full, frankly terrifying power of American industry. Let's put this in perspective. In 1942, Germany made about 4,800 tanks. The Soviets, 24,000. And a lot of that was thanks to American aid. And look at this last number. That's just the number of vehicles the U.S. sent to the Soviet Union alone. It's not a fight anymore. The Axis was about to be buried under an absolute avalanche of steel.
So fast forward to 1944. And all of these threads, these three huge miscalculations, they're all coming together. The Axis powers are now trapped. They're stuck in a multi-front war against an enemy with overwhelming industrial and military power. This is a war they simply cannot win. I mean, Germany was literally caught in a vice. You've got the massive Red Army pushing from the east. You've got the Allies grinding their way up from the south through Italy. And then in June of '44, D-Day, the Allies open up a third front in the west. The Reichs is being squeezed, and squeezed hard from all sides.
And this table really just lays it all out, doesn't it? Every major turning point in the war comes back to a fatal assumption born from hubris. They thought Britain would surrender? It didn't. They thought the USSR would collapse? It didn't. They thought the USA would stay out of it? It didn't. They constantly underestimated their enemy's will, their resilience, and their sheer ability to produce. This was, plain and simple, a war lost over confidence.
So yeah, the war was won with strategy and steel. But what's the real lesson here for us? I think the story of World War II is this brutal, timeless reminder of just how razor-thin the line is between confidence and catastrophic pride. And it shows how the belief in a quick, simple, happy ending can end up unleashing the absolute worst horrors imaginable.